Hello, Carnage Cravers. Welcome back to Carnage Corner. I am Ken Carnage, and today we're going to be talking about Logan. I'm going to be giving you my thoughts on the film, a little bit of a review. First off, wow, this was... I had high expectations going into this film, and the way that my expectations were met, surpassed, and shattered was... just mind-boggling. I know it's only March, but I would not be surprised if this ends up being my favorite film of 2017. The only thing that might surpass it is episode 8 when it comes out. We'll have to see. Well, we are getting Justice League this year too, so I don't know. But point is Logan has set a very, very high bar. I mean, if there was ever a chance, if a comic book film ever had a chance at winning a Best Picture Oscar, this would be it. This was just a heart-wrenching and just amazing. This was not an action film. This was a character drama, and it was executed to perfection by James Mangold and of course Patrick Stewart and Hugh Jackman. Just fantastic. Patrick Stewart really just kills it as Xavier, and Xavier is a shell of the man he once was, and for that matter, so is Wolverine, and because Wolverine, the adamantium poisoning has robbed him, pretty much robbed him of his healing factor, and he doesn't have what he used to have. He's quite literally a shell of himself, and I can't say enough about just the subtle character interactions and whatnot, and just everything you feel for everybody in this film. You feel for Charles, who was the most powerful mind on the planet and is now, for all intents and purposes, a prisoner in his own mind. You feel for Wolverine. This is a guy who could survive anything. This was a one-man army, and now he's getting his ass kicked by people trying to steal his car. There's that old saying, well, how the mighty have fallen, and they have. They're not who they once were, and it's painful and it's frustrating. It's frustrating as a viewer to watch how frustrating it is for the characters. And then of course, there's X-23, the girl who plays Laura. I did not write down her name and I don't recall it, but she is, this kid's one to watch. She's got a future because she was fantastic. She was absolutely fantastic pulling off that role. And I'm glad they didn't go with a more established, star. I'm glad they went the route they went, because they got somebody that they could build, and they got somebody with talent in it, but not necessarily, but didn't have the name recognition, didn't have the wasn't going to take you out of it with their presence, which really worked out. A couple of key points of the film. The relationship between Logan and Charles is a big part of the film, and and they fight. They spend pretty much the whole movie bickering and fighting. Kind of like a father and son who don't get along. You get the impression there's a little bit of resentment there on both sides, because on one hand, Charles doesn't like being, for all intents and purposes, locked up, but on the other hand, he needs somebody to take care of him. And Wolverine, he doesn't necessarily want to be the guy who's got to take care of Charles, but because of what happens when Charles, has an episode, he's kind of the only person on the planet who can. So they both kind of need each other, and but neither one really wants the other. So it's it's a symbiotic relationship that is far from perfect, and you really feel that. And you know that they care about each other. Otherwise, they wouldn't put up with each other. But it really is that heads heads butting, not getting along kind of situation there. And it's compounded by the arrival of X-23, and the fact that there are people after her, and she needs help, and and then there's the realization that she is, for all intents and purposes, she's Logan's daughter, which is something he had never asked for, something he had never never wanted, never really even considered a possibility. And again, he manages to have a character arc, and he manages to have a character arc and come to, because he just didn't want to be bothered. And of course, by the end, that's very far from the case. X-24 was a nice surprise that I was not expecting. And of course, X-24 also played expertly by Hugh Jackman as like a younger version of Wolverine, like a full-on genetic clone, just rampaging out of control. And then you have Logan having to fight a younger version of himself, and of course the younger version of himself is younger, faster, stronger, seems to have all the advantage, and the only thing that Logan has on this younger version of himself is skill and experience and the ability to think. And so it makes for some very, very good fight scenes. The fight scenes are not, it's not like normal superhero choreographed crap. These are gritty. They are downright grisly, and they look great. It's not a secret that this is the last ride for Xavier and for Logan, and it's kind of heartbreaking. Spoiler alert, by the way, but it's kind of heartbreaking because Xavier, he realizes what he did when he had his first episode, because he accidentally wiping out the entire school, killing all his students, and he remembers this before he dies, and he's it hurts him, to remember what happened, what he did, what he was responsible for. And then of course, he thinks he's talking to Logan, but it's not, it's X-24. And but we don't even know that until he leans into the camera after he's already stabbed Charles in the chest. So it's like a shock moment. And but I thought that Hugh Jackman, when Logan finds Charles, and there's this franticness in Logan's voice, a pleading, telling Charles, it wasn't me, it wasn't me, it wasn't me. He does not want Charles to die, thinking that he killed him. And it was subtle, but it was powerful. And then of course, one of the big themes in the movie is the fact that Logan really, he's suffering so much, he really just wants to die. He's seriously considering suicide. And so it's kind of funny that he gets killed by X-24, a clone of himself. So in a way, he kind of kills himself. So it's not really suicide, but it's kind of it's a poignant, little tongue-in-cheek moment there, of course. But just and of course the relationship that builds between Laura and Logan, it's slow. It builds slowly, but at the same time, because they're both a couple of stubborn asses, So, but it's just Logan's death is is touching. It's really heart-wrenching, and it's even more so. I mean, yeah, Laura has a healing factor. She's vicious. She's quite capable of taking care of herself from a physical standpoint. But when you take that away, the one thing to remember about the scene is that this 11-year-old little girl is watching her father die in the middle of nowhere. And, and now she's got to navigate the world. She doesn't have anyone. The old man who was guiding her, he's gone. Her father, who she, barely got to really know, now he's gone. She doesn't have, no mother, no nothing. So she's got a insurmountable, almost, she has her friends, but it's a daunting task ahead of her because she has to navigate this world for all intents and purposes alone. And I actually think that James Marigold should do a movie that centers on her going forward, because that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Where the hell does she go from here? What's going to happen now? Because if there's one thing we know from reading the comics, it's that the bad guys never stop hunting for you. So somebody else will come. Somebody else is going to come looking for her. So the question becomes, where on earth is she going to go from here, and what is she going to do, and what's going to become of the other mutants? So I'm intrigued, but all in all, I have to say of Logan, the film, I don't have anything bad I can say about this unless I start nitpicking about adamantium bullets. But I'm not going to do that because, you know what? I don't give a damn about the adamantium bullet. Everything else was so fucking good. I can forgive one little thing that doesn't make sense. And you know what? It doesn't matter that it doesn't make sense, because they already established in another film that this does this. Yes, it doesn't make sense, but it doesn't matter. Continuity is, Fox doesn't know the meaning of the word anyways. So, take the film for what it is on its own merit. And I don't want to be cliche and use the word masterpiece, but it's a damn good film. Like I said, it might go down as being my favorite film of the entire year. So, that being said, I got a new scoring system going on. I decided that rather than do the whole, I had originally done the whole 5-star thing, and then I went to doing, out of 10. And something unprecedented. This has never happened before, but for the first time, this is, on a scale of 1 to 10, I give this a 13. That's the highest praise that a film could ever get from me. So that's the point there. If you haven't seen Logan yet, first off, I hope you're not watching this, because I just really fucking spoiled the shit out of it. But it bears rewatching. It was easily the best film I've seen in a long time. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Ken Carnage. This has been Carnage Corner. And remember, until next time, Carnage is right around the corner.